Welcome to Tom's True Crime. Today, we take you to Bland, Virginia. Around the time of this case, Bland had a primarily agricultural economy, with farming being a significant source of income for many residents. The region's fertile land supported various crops, including hay, corn, and soybeans. Livestock farming, particularly cattle and poultry, also contributed to the local economy. Many families engaged in small-scale farming operations, which provided income as well as sustenance for their households. People are out there farming and working hard for a living. On June 21, 2000, just before 11 p.m., a cryptic 911 call comes into the Bland County Police Department. The caller tells the operator that someone has been killed. He does not know how the person was killed. A man came to his door saying, "Please call the police." Officers race to the scene, unsure of what they will find. As they approach the address, they are met by 55-year-old Curtis Kossek and his daughter, Stella Jurgielan. Curtis Kossek advised the responding officers that two men had just broken into his daughter's residence and attacked and assaulted her husband, Randy Jurgielan. Curtis's trailer is next door to their trailer. Stella tells officers that Randy's friend, Bryan Holtkamp, had been crashing on their couch for the night. Concerned that the attackers may still be inside, officers cautiously approach Stella's trailer. What they saw when they went in was a very bloody crime scene. There was blood all over the place. There were trails of blood throughout the house. So they knew something was terribly wrong. As they make their way toward the master bedroom, officers spot a male body who they believe to be Stella's husband, 46-year-old Randy Jurgielan. He was on the floor next to the bed. There was a lot of blood and trauma to his body. The officers continue their sweep when they stumble upon a second body in the hallway bathroom. Once the responding officers have the crime scene secured, that's when they make contact with dispatch to go ahead and have crime scene and violent crimes respond. While officers wait for homicide detectives to arrive, they head over to Curtis' home to break the news to Stella and her young children. Stella and Randy had 3 children, 2 young men, and a baby. Randy had no criminal record, just a hardworking guy. Certainly, detectives had no reason to believe that someone out there wanted to kill him. Randy Jurgielan was born on May 25, 1954, and raised in Bland, Virginia. Randy was a hard worker, and he was a really good friend. Randy could often be found helping out at a local bar owned by his aunt and uncle. It was a small country store that they had made into a bar. Randy helped them out a lot, especially around the bar, because that was a family business for them. His primary job was driving cement mixers. In the spring of 1991, Randy was already once divorced when Curtis Kossek, who worked for the same company as Randy, introduced him to his daughter, Stella. There was about 22 years age difference between Stella and Randy. Randy was about 38 when they met, and Stella was 16. But they got along, and Randy respected Stella. Born on April 9, 1975, Stella was the second of Lauren and Curtis Kossek's 5 children. Curtis and Lauren were alcoholics. Stella was often left to mother her younger siblings. Stella took it personally to a degree because she felt like she was not good enough for her mom and dad to not drink. Stella's brother, David, ended up calling social services. Stella and David couldn't deal with the situation anymore. They ended up in children's home and foster care for 2 years, and that's where they split the children up. Losing the kids eventually inspired Curtis and Lauren to get their act together. 2 years later, the family reunited. The reuniting of them coming back home and being a family again was great, but truth is it didn't last long. David left to join the military, and Stella ultimately met Randy and moved out. At first, Stella's family was not happy about the 22-year age difference. As dysfunctional as the family was, they were very protective of one another. It was obvious that Stella was over the mothering role that she had led early in her teens because once she met Randy, she changed completely. Randy was a great provider. She fell in love. No one else mattered. It was all about him. Randy was taking care of not only Stella but Curtis and her brother Malcolm as well. Randy and Malcolm were close. They would go fishing together and just hang out as boys do. Randy's family embraced Stella, even offering the teenager shifts at the family business. She was bartending for them. It was allowed because it was a small country store, and it's not like the authorities were there watching. When they spoke of marriage at her age of 16, Curtis left it up to Lauren to decide. In the end, Stella's mother signed off on the marriage. They lived in an old trailer that Randy had bought and fixed up. Over the next 9 years, the couple had 3 kids, Randy Jr., Isaac, and Josh. Stella was a wonderful mother. She didn't go anywhere without her boys. Randy continues to work hard. He provided for his family. In 1999, Stella's parents, Lauren and Curtis, split up. Curtis had started partying again, and she had had it. When they separated, Curtis went and lived in a mobile home that was on the same property as Stella and Randy's property, so they were living really close. It was a happy life. Kids were happy playing with their toys. It was just a normal life, it seemed. Until the night of June 21, 2000, when a violent attack inside the family's trailer leaves Randy and his good friend, Bryan Holtkamp, dead. There were 2 blood trails. One that led from the door to the back bedroom, where detectives found Randy Jurgielan. There's a second trail that started at the door and went to the bathroom. That's where detectives found Bryan. This was a stabbing, and stabbings are bloody. And there were bruises consistent with being hit by a bat of some kind. The 2 men were beaten, stabbed, and their throats were cut. A little before 1 a.m., detectives head to Curtis Kossek's home, where officers are waiting with the family. Before talking to Stella, investigators check on her 3 young sons. 7-year-old Randy Jr. tells them he was asleep in the living room when the attack began. He told County Police Lieutenant that he woke up to screaming. Randy Jr. said his mama told him that 2 men had come in. Randy Jr. said he didn't see the men. 5-year-old Isaac adds to the story. He stated that his mama told him that 2 big men came in to rob Daddy. He also said that mama told him they had knives. Both boys are physically unharmed, but investigators aren't sold on their stories just yet. It was a little odd that both children were telling them information that their mother had told them. Detectives have to wonder, did Stella coach her kids about what to tell police? The oldest had blood on his foot, and the middle child, Isaac, had blood on his hands and feet, which means they were in close proximity when this occurred, if not right there when it occurred. June 22, 2000. At 12:50 a.m., Bland County homicide detectives are questioning the family of Stella and Randy Jurgielan after Randy and his friend Bryan Holtkamp are found dead. Stella advised that she had gone to bed around 10:15 that night. About 10:30, she heard a knock at the back door and a commotion, and that's when she came out to see what was going on. She said 2 people came in and assaulted her husband. One was striking Randy with a wooden bat. He was wearing all dark colors and a face covering. She said with a commotion going on, Bryan Holtkamp, at that point in time, tries to intervene. And that's when she gathered up her 3 children and went to her Curtis house next door. Curtis Kossek didn't have a residential phone, so he went down the road to call 911. When investigators ask if Stella knows the men who attacked Randy and Bryan, they are stunned by her response. Stella had said that Malcolm Kossek was striking Randy with a wooden bat. Malcolm Kossek was Stella Jurgielan's brother. Stella also said that there was a black male with Malcolm that was trying to kill Randy, and that she believed was a friend of Malcolm's. When Malcolm was in the trailer attacking Randy, she asked him what he was doing, and he said that was none of her concern. Stella's revelation is shocking, but for detectives, her story isn't quite adding up. She said nothing about Malcolm being involved when she was interviewed by detectives initially. Perhaps she didn't want to identify Malcolm, her brother, in front of her kids. Detectives also questioned why Malcolm had his face covered. Stella knew who he was. Certainly, Stella would have recognized her brother, even with a mask on. The only reason detectives can think of is in case one of the children woke up or somebody saw them from the outside. While Stella's interview raises a lot of questions, it does give detectives their first lead. When somebody comes out of the blue from nowhere and kills someone, that causes fear in the community. But this was not a random event. This was a family affair. It did strike police as odd because Stella had indicated that Malcolm and Randy were the best of friends. Finding Malcolm becomes investigators' top priority. County Police Lieutenant spoke to Curtis Kossek. He advised that he hadn't seen Malcolm Kossek, his son, since 8:30 p.m. In speaking with Curtis, it did not appear that he had any knowledge of what had occurred at his daughter's trailer next door. Curtis tells them that his son does not have a permanent address. Curtis said Malcolm bounced around. He would stay with Randy and Stella at times. Curtis said he would also stay over at Logan's home. Logan Herkelman was Lauren Kossek's boyfriend. Curtis provided police with Malcolm's vehicle registration details. Police immediately put out a bolo on the vehicle. And only a few hours later, they get a call that Malcolm's car has been spotted at Logan's home. Logan Herkelman went to school with one of Stella Jurgielan's brothers. Logan and Lauren dated off and on. They were on for a good month, heavy dating, living together. Eager to catch Malcolm before he takes off again, investigators rush to the home. Inside, they find Malcolm and Logan, as well as Stella's mother, Lauren, and Stella's sister, Jasmine. Malcolm and Lauren voluntarily went with detectives to be interviewed. County police lieutenants stayed and interviewed Logan and Jasmine. Investigators informed Jasmine of Stella's account of the murder. They told her that Stella had indicated that Malcolm was the attacker the previous evening. But Jasmine advised that she had been with Malcolm since 8 o'clock the previous evening, and that she begged Malcolm also to stay with her because she hadn't seen him much lately. It appears that Jasmine is trying to give Malcolm an alibi. Next, authorities turned to Logan Kossek's boyfriend, 29-year-old Logan Herkelman. When County Police Lieutenant interviewed Logan and Herkelman, he said that he was asleep at 9 p.m. the previous evening until this morning, and that Malcolm's car was parked near his window, so he would have heard it if it moved. The statements were inconsistent with the statements that Stella herself made to the police. Someone was lying to the police. Detective Garton heads back to the station where Malcolm and his mother, Lauren, are being questioned. Lauren advised that she was over at her husband's Curtis's trailer, which is next door to Stella's, from about 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., with Stella and the kids over there. Lauren tells detectives that Jasmine and Malcolm were also there, and that Stella was very upset. Jasmine was with them over at Curtis's trailer, and Stella was telling her how Randy had been beating her and throwing the kids around. Less than 24 hours have passed since the brutal murders of Stella Jurgielan's husband, Randy, and his friend Bryan Holtkamp, when investigators uncover a potential motive for the killings. There had been prior instances of abuse that Lauren was aware of between Randy and Stella. But when Lauren found out that one of the children was being abused, she was very upset. She said it was bad enough that Stella was being abused, but now you have put an innocent child into it. But the revelations don't stop there. Lauren says Malcolm was not the only one who wanted to teach Randy a lesson. Lauren advised that upon learning this information, that Malcolm and Jasmine said that Randy needed a whipping. People who know the family say that they are unusually close-knit and do not take rubbish from anyone. They are going to fight back. Lauren says the alleged abuse against her grandchild was the last straw, and the family decided to pay Randy a visit that same night. Lauren advised that when they drove over there, they parked on the side of the road. She went and knocked on the door, and Stella answered the door. Randy came out and started throwing profanity at her, and that's when Malcolm struck Randy with the wooden bat. She also told detectives she saw Logan cut Randy's throat when he was on the porch. Lauren helps Stella get the children over to Curtis's house, and then she leaves with Logan, Jasmine, and Malcolm, and the vehicle goes back to Logan's house. She said that she went to bed around 11:30 p.m., and she did not get up until 9 a.m. Jasmine and Malcolm had gone back to Stella's trailer that morning, and when they came back from there, they told her that Randy was dead. With Lauren's statement, investigators now have 3 different versions of what took place the night of the murders. Jasmine stated she had been with Malcolm the previous evening and had not seen Randy all day. Stella told investigators she was in the bedroom asleep and that Randy had answered the door, when in fact her mother, Lauren, now states that Stella answered the door at 10:30 that night. Detectives believe that Stella had some type of involvement in the incident. While Lauren is being questioned, Malcolm's interview is taking place in another room. Malcolm waives his rights and wishes to speak to detectives. Malcolm Kossek was a laid-back kid. He did not have a record of assaulting people or a criminal record. Malcolm tells them that after listening to Stella's tales of abuse earlier in the day, he went to her trailer with his mom, Lauren, Logan, and Jasmine around 10:30 that night to deliver a beatdown on Randy. Malcolm brought a special weapon along, one he had made himself. Malcolm said that there were 2 weapons. There was a large kitchen knife and a wooden bat that was about 4 feet long. It's something that Malcolm had made when he was younger. Malcolm advised that when they got there that Lauren and Jasmine knocked on the door while he and Logan hid in the shadows. Stella answered. When Stella called Randy to the door, the 2 men jumped out and went after him. And all that was part of the plan. Malcolm said that he struck Randy in the head with a wooden bat that he had. After Randy dropped to the porch, Malcolm said that Logan then cut Randy's throat. Malcolm claims the plan had only been to beat up Randy, and Logan's escalation came as a surprise to everyone. But investigators are not buying it. Malcolm claimed they do not know when it switched from beating him up to killing him. But the knife, which was a large kitchen knife, very long, they brought it with them. So it seemed all that was part of the plan. What Malcolm is telling investigators is matching up with what Lauren said in the physical evidence, what detectives saw based on the blood spatter, and where the blood pooling and all took place. As for Bryan Holtkamp, Malcolm says he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Bryan Holtkamp was not supposed to be there. He had just been forced from his own home because of a domestic violence investigation. He could not stay there. So he went to stay with his friend Randy. With a commotion going on, Bryan Holtkamp awakens from the couch and goes to the door to see what's going on. Malcolm tells him, "This does not concern you." And Bryan tries to intervene. They had to deal with a witness that they had not expected. An altercation starts to occur. Bryan turns around and runs down to the bathroom. Logan and Malcolm give chase and proceed to beat and stab Bryan. Meanwhile, Malcolm tells them, even with his throat cut, Randy was still alive and trying to get to a gun he kept in his bedroom. Randy is able to drag himself into the living room where he is bleeding profusely. Somehow he gets to the bedroom, then Malcolm and Logan beat and stabbed Randy in the bedroom. Investigators have enough to place both Malcolm and his mother Lauren under arrest. And based on their statements, investigators also obtain arrest warrants for Jasmine Kossek and Logan Herkelman. But when authorities return to Logan's house, they find it empty. Logan and Jasmine, they were not at the residence. They were on the run. While the search is underway for Jasmine and Logan, detectives take another look at Stella. First, she tells Curtis the false story that was passed on to 911, and then she told investigators it was her brother. She didn't tell them that she answered the door. She was looking like a liar. Investigators just did not have enough to charge her, because none of them had stated that Stella was in on it. Just hours later, investigators get a break. Jasmine is located at a friend's house and placed under arrest. Investigators are eager to hear if Jasmine has changed her tune in light of her mother and brother's arrests. Jasmine was interviewed again after she was given her Miranda rights, where she waived her rights and decided to speak with detectives. At that point, Jasmine wanted to look at saving herself. She gave up the whole plot. On July 23, 2000, 2 days after the vicious attack that killed Randy Jurgielan and his friend, Bryan Holtkamp, Loren Kossek, her son Malcolm, and daughter Jasmine are in police custody. Lauren's boyfriend, Logan Herkelman, is still at large. According to Lauren and Malcolm, the plan was just to beat Randy up, but Logan Herkelman got in there and switched over from beating him up to killing him. However, when investigators sit down with Jasmine following her arrest, she changes her story again, but this time investigators suspect they are getting closer to the truth. Jasmine said that all four of them, Lauren, her Logan, and Malcolm, all went to the residence because Randy needed to be killed. She said they had a basic plan, which was that they would go over to the house and kill him there. Detectives found Jasmine's story to be the most forthcoming because you can't help but know that a murder is going to happen when one of the people has a knife. That gives the detectives the premeditation involved for all four of them. They know exactly what was going to happen. The results of forensic testing at the crime scene come in, and they are damning. They found fingerprints in a getaway vehicle that was used for Lauren, Jasmine, Logan, and Malcolm to come to the house, but the only complete match was Logan Herkelman. Hours after Jasmine's statement, Logan Herkelman walks into the county sheriff's station and turns himself in. Logan knew the detectives had everybody else in the family in custody and just went ahead and turned himself in. Logan invoked his right to remain silent and never spoke with detectives. The rest of the Kossek clan reels from news of the arrest. They were all full of regret. At that point, their state of mind was protecting and defending one another. They would not give the rest of the clan any details or why. Meanwhile, investigators look into Stella's allegations of abuse. What detectives know about Stella and Randy's relationship, detectives mostly got from Stella. She said that there was abuse going on. The children never complained of anything. Detectives did not have any kind of bruises, no police reports or anything like that. However, friends of the family tell investigators that Randy and Stella did have a volatile relationship. Stella's relationship with Randy, there had been heavy drinking. As far as Randy was concerned, Stella knew that she had children to take care of, and she could not completely let herself go. But no matter how hard they look, they find nothing to link Stella to the murders. Detectives thought Stella has some involvement, but they did not have any evidence they could actually use to prove that or to establish probable cause because nobody else had implicated her. Seemingly in the clear, Stella goes about her life. The police, they were really pointing the finger at her. The Kossek clan wanted to protect her. She had the kids. She and her children moved in with her brother, David. As prosecutors and investigators prepare for 4 murder trials, Jasmine's attorneys and prosecutors reach a plea deal. There were only 5 living adults that knew what happened that day. There was not enough to prove their case without statements from at least some of them. Prosecutors had to make a deal with someone. Jasmine was most forthcoming. She was the one that was most cooperative. Jasmine agrees to help in the hunt for the murder weapon. At the scene, detectives never located a wooden bat or any knives. On July 6th, detectives had signed Jasmine out of the detention center. She is assisting police in locating the wooden bat that was used in the crime and the knife. Jasmine tells investigators the weapons were disposed of on the ride home from the crime scene. The wooden bat was thrown out by the side of the road. Police were able to locate the wooden bat off the side of the road. It had broken in half, and blood spatter is obvious on the wooden bat. Police are unable to locate the knife, but the discovery of the wooden bat will strengthen the prosecution's case against the 4 accused. The plea agreement with Jasmine was that she had to testify truthfully in all trials arising from the facts of the murder. On August 7, 2001, over a year since Randy and Bryan Holtkamp's murders, Jasmine finally confirms what law enforcement has suspected all along. She told them that Stella was the reason that it happened, and she's the one that asked them to do something about Randy. According to Jasmine, Stella knew the plan when she opened the door. The plan was to kill Randy. The attack was planned for that night. Jasmine and Logan at one point did draw out a map of Randy's house, more so for planning the attack than for anything else. Stella knew it was coming, and she was acting a part of it to lure Randy to the door. Even though Logan was not family, Jasmine alleges he was eager to help. Jasmine told police that Logan had said, "I have never knifed someone. I want to know what it's like to knife someone, so I'm going to use a knife." Jasmine confirms that killing Bryan Holtkamp was never part of the plan. Bryan Holtkamp was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Stella did not do anything to say, "Stop. No, this is not a good night. There is somebody else here." She let it go on knowing that Bryan was there and would probably have to be disposed of as well. Jasmine broke the family code of sticking together. With Jasmine's statement, investigators finally have enough to obtain a warrant for Stella's arrest. The next day, on August 8th, investigators informed Stella that she must turn herself in. Stella and the boys were living with her brother David. Detectives signed notarized statements, giving David custody. David drove Stella to hand herself in. The arresting officers told her that they were charging her with double homicide. Almost a year after the murders of Randy Jurgielan and his friend, Bryan Holtkamp, Randy's wife, Stella Jurgielan, is taken into custody. Because she was present at the scene and aiding and abetting her family in doing it, she was charged as a principal in murder. In October 2001, Stella's brother, Malcolm Kossek, appears before a judge. Malcolm did not want to testify against his family. He wasn't willing to cooperate. He ultimately pled guilty and received a life sentence. A month later, Lauren and Logan go on trial. Jasmine Kossek is the star witness testifying against both Logan and Lauren. The jury found Lauren guilty and sentenced her to 35 years. Logan Herkelman was found not guilty by the jury and released. That finding of not guilty shocked some people. His attorney was able to argue that the fingerprint in the car means nothing because it was there before. He rides in that car all the time. His attorney said he does not know anything about the crime. He was asleep at home. His attorney said Jasmine was lying. Jasmine was the primary way detectives had to prove Logan's involvement, other than showing that they were associates. Because they never recovered the knife, he convinced the jury that Jasmine had lied about him being present. She was trying to push the blame outside the family. In the eyes of the law, Logan is completely innocent of these crimes. Almost a year later, on June 18, 2002, 27-year-old Stella Jurgielan finally stands trial for murder. Prosecutors wanted the jury to know that Stella was in on this from the beginning. She helped plan it. She was the driving force behind it. And that came from Jasmine, her sister's testimony. Throughout the trial, Stella maintains her innocence. Stella Jurgielan's defense tried to argue that she would not have done this in her own home with her children there. The problem with that argument was that the evidence and statements from the family members show that the plan at the beginning was it was going to happen on the porch, and the children were inside asleep. It was never meant to come back into the house like it did. She opened the door and got Randy ready to come to the door for the attack to take place. So she was part of the planning and part of the execution. Prosecution theory of the case was that Stella just wanted to be rid of Randy. It seems the purpose of this crime is to get rid of an inconvenient husband. On September 19, 2002, the jury convenes. That same day, they reach a verdict. On September 2002, Stella Jurgielan is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for her involvement in the deaths of her husband, Randy Jurgielan, and his friend, Bryan Holtkamp. People who know the family said that this family is not your typical family. They are extremely close-knit. They truly thought that they could help Stella in this situation. They thought they were doing her a favor. Instead, they left a wave of destruction in their wake. It destroyed that family. There was a mother and a father and 3 children. Now the father was dead and the mother is in prison. Bryan, poor fellow, was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It is unknown whether Stella thought this could escalate to the magnitude that it did. Logan Kossek will be 77 years old by the time of her projected release. As a result of her cooperation, Jasmine was sentenced to 30 years. Malcolm Kossek is serving life without parole. Stella Jurgielan is serving life without parole. Detectives said that this could have been prevented just by Stella leaving Randy. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Tom's True Crime. If you are interested in more in-depth investigations into the most perplexing crimes, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. What are your thoughts about this case? Please share them with us in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe.